Hello, everybody. And again, as the introduction said, my name is Caden Mattinson. I am the executive director of Mending Village. I am the host of this podcast. You have joined us on Into the Light with Mending Village. Today's episode is kind of a unique one. We are bringing to you the podcast on our program for suicide prevention and awareness. On this discussion, I am giving you a bit of a heads up and a bit of a warning. This is going to be a heavy topic. It's going to be a much needed topic. It's going to be a very good topic, but it is going to be heavy and it's going to be a lot of information. If you have any questions afterwards, or if you need to talk about anything that was on the episode afterwards, please reach out to me. I'm happy to have that conversation with you. Today's topic is 0 is the only acceptable number. It's the only acceptable number of suicides in the United States, the only acceptable number in Utah, and certainly the only acceptable number in Morgan County. We're not even close. We're not even close to that number. And so while that is an issue, of course, organizations like Mending Minds Village, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, National Alliance for Mental Illness, we're all going to have a place in this battle for hitting that 0 number. We don't want people to feel like that's their only way to get out. It's their only way to handle any problems. So we bring to you our topic on our program for suicide prevention and awareness. You guys, we cannot stop fighting for suicide prevention until no person in this country and in the world feels the need to commit suicide. We need to do better about coming together as an organization, as a community, and as a world environment, and make sure that we put a stop to this epidemic, that we support our fellow human beings, and that we're there when your fellow humans need us. We're all human beings. Let's be there and support each other. You might think that this topic doesn't affect you, or why are we even listening to this subject? Well, according to the statistics released by the CDC for 2022, nearly 1% of the United States population has had at least one attempt on their life. That means that out of 335 million known citizens in the U.S. today, at least 3.5 million Americans have at least attempted suicide, if not completed. Those are big numbers. We don't like those numbers. 3.5 million Americans per year have attempted suicide. That's not good. We don't want that. So let's get into a little bit about the myths around suicide and how we can debunk those myths and how we can help you maybe take a step forward in your own life, in observing your friends and family and even your neighbors, and how you can help make sure that they are taken care of in their moments of need. So let's talk about myth number 1 for a minute. Myth number 1 is saying that you have to have a mental illness. You have to have depression, anxiety, some kind of mental disability to be a suicide victim or to be a suicide survivor if you have had an attempt. Although that's possible, and in some cases we do see that there is mental illness involved that is kind of a leading cause of the suicide attempt, that's not necessarily true. We see people that go through critical illnesses. We see people that go through a change of work environment. We see people that go through all kinds of things every single day, and they have no idea that tomorrow that person may not be here. There was no warning signs. There was no way to know that they were sick. There was no way to know that that was the direction that they were heading. There are some people in this country who don't exhibit warning signs, but that is not the majority of the case. And so we're going to, later on in the podcast, we're going to talk about how you can pay attention and see the warning signs and how you can intervene. Myth number 2 is that only trained professionals can help someone experiencing suicidal thoughts. This is not true. Although we are trained and we are becoming certified in suicide prevention and suicide education, you as a friend, as a neighbor, as a family member can participate in saving somebody's life. Your words, even very small few words, just being present in their situation, your action of care, the effort that you put into being friends with somebody or understanding somebody may be just the thing that prevents somebody from committing suicide. And we'll talk about that a little more later. Of course, myth number 3 is that talking about suicide increases the chance that someone is going to commit suicide. This is not true at all, folks. If you are in this field, if you are educated in suicide prevention, you already know this. If you are not, and you are listening from the general public, let me introduce you to some pretty mind-blowing information that kind of took me by surprise when we first started into the organization. This is the number 1 most believed misconception about suicide. The number 1. If you speak on suicide, you may be the reason that somebody chooses not to go through with their suicidal thoughts. You may be the person who deflects them and who changes their mind. One of the ways to do that is that we ask direct and uncomfortable questions. And I know that's not easy to do, but asking that direct question, well, what question is that, Caden? That question would be, do you have plans to kill yourself? Do you have a plan on how you plan to end your life? It may be very uncomfortable. That may be a conversation that you're not willing to have, and that's okay. We'll tell you ways later in the podcast how you can also participate and prevent somebody from going through with it. Myth number 4 would be that people who take their own lives are selfish, and those who talk about suicide are only thinking of themselves. This is far from the truth, folks. And if you are one of those who are under this belief, please listen to this part of the podcast. In a survivors of suicidal ideations, we are often told things like, I wanted to die to save my friends and family from suffering. I wanted to end my own life because my kids will then not have to suffer because of my mental illness, because of my situation, because of what I've put them through. There are often times where people don't talk about suicide because they don't want you to believe that they're doing it for selfish reasons. They are not thinking about themselves in this situation. They are thinking about, I am taking the problem of me away from everybody else. And that's a hard one to swallow. That's a hard one to understand. But they are somebody that is in that moment and it has been suicidal is not thinking about themselves in that moment. They are the last person they are thinking about in that moment. Kind of some just kind of scratching the surface on some of those myths, but those are the 4 big ones. And so those are 4 that we really want you to understand and think about. Let's get into some statistics a little bit and talk about suicide and suicidal ideation and help you understand just how big this problem currently is. Some of these statistics are coming out of 2021 because they're still working on 22 and 23's data. So, but these numbers, we know just off of the research that they've done, these numbers are up about 35 to 40% from the statistics that I'm going to give you. So think about that. They're worse than the 2021 data that I'm going to give you. According to the CDC, in 2021, of the estimated 13.5 million people who thought about suicide, 3.5 million of them had planned their attempt, and at least 1.7 million of them had attempted at least one time if they were not successful in their attempt. At least one attempt. 2 million people in the United States had at least attempted suicide in 2021. If you think about that being up about 35%, you're talking roughly 2 to 2.5 million that had at least one attempt. That's big numbers. Those are not good numbers. We don't want that to even be 1. So we have a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of people that we need to support to keep that number from reaching that high. According to those same statistics from the CDC in 2021, there was a suicide completed every 11 minutes in the United States. And suicide was the second leading cause of death in children ages 10 to 14, as well as 20 to 34. Second leading cause of death. The first leading cause of death being trauma. So I want you to think about that, because at this point in the podcast, there has been one suicide completed in the small amount of time that we've been on this podcast. In this 11 minutes, at least one person has committed suicide in the United States. That's a lot. That's a lot to take in. In the state of Utah, we do have 2023 data. In 2023, folks, there were documented 651 suicides completed in 2023 here in the state of Utah. That's the equivalent of roughly 2 successful suicides per day. Of those statistics, ages 10 to 24 accounted for nearly 15% of that total number. What that data shows us is that 1 in 5 high school students had admitted to suicidal thoughts and or attempts in 2023. 1 out of 5 high school age students had admitted to suicidal thoughts or at least one attempt in 2023. In 2021, we're waiting again still for the 2023 data. In 2021, there were 107 successful suicides between ages 10 and 17 in Utah. 107. That's too many. Not okay, especially not at that age group. And that is where Mending Minds Village comes into play. We want to educate the public because these statistics are not well known. People don't know those numbers. I didn't know those numbers until we did our research, and we're putting together our education, and we're trying to get into the high schools and into the PTA meetings and stuff to relay this information, because the general public doesn't know that many, doesn't know those numbers. That's crazy. That's way too much. That's way too many. So you're giving me all this data, you're giving me all this information, and it's a lot to swallow. It's hard to handle. What are some things that I can be looking for in those that are around me, friends, family, neighbors, church, fellow church members, whatever? What are some things that you can be looking for, some patterns that have changed in those people that can give you a clue that maybe you need to ask those questions, that you need to ask if they are okay, ask if they have thought about killing themselves or ending their lives, however you want to word that. But the problem is, we're going to kind of take a step back away from some of those things that you can do, and I want to address something that's very, very, very important. One of the worst questions that you can ask a suicidal person is, do they have plans to harm themselves, or do they have plans to hurt themselves? Because they're going to answer no to that question every single time. Every time. Number one, hurting themselves is the last thing on their minds. They have been in so much pain, possibly physically, but definitely emotionally, spiritually, mentally, so much pain, that the last thing on their mind is that they want to hurt more. Suicide is the final symptom of suicidal ideation. The actual process of killing oneself is the final symptom. We need to treat suicidal ideation, and we need to treat suicides no different than what we would treat mental health, and no different than what we would treat physical health. This is not a selfish thing. This is a pain response. This is a number of other things. This is not being selfish, you guys. So some things that you can be looking for in friends and family, especially in minors, but even in the adult population. Any recent alcoholism. We talk about that, any frequent drinking, any new drinking from the juvenile population, any new drinking from the adult population when you knew that there was some other underlying issues leading up to that. If there was marital problems, if there was financial problems, new diagnoses, anything like that. And then now all of a sudden we have recent alcoholism, and we're not talking a half a drink or a drink a night. We're talking drinking a full 36 pack of beer. We're talking drinking a whole bottle of vodka, any kind of liquors, from having really no drinking at all. Any abnormal behavior. If you see changes in somebody, if you know somebody well and you're seeing things that they're doing that just don't match up to who they were before, that's another sign that you can be looking for. We're seeing an increased suicide rate in sexual abuse survivors. So, of course, that's something that you want to put out your support. And if you don't know how to do that, or if you're not sure how to do that, don't be afraid to go learn. There are resources out there. I'm going to give you a few lists, a few places that you can go and learn some information about suicide and how to prevent and how to help in those cases. Of course, depression is going to be a sign. It's not necessarily that they have been depressed for a long time, but that they are newly depressed. That there was a recent serious diagnosis, cancer, HIV, anything kind of life-threatening or life-changing is one thing that we need to give our support to those people, because that can be the driving factor. If they have any previous suicide attempts and now they're showing the same behaviors, we need to definitely intervene and step forward. If there's any recent substance abuse, again, new onset, not repeated history, but new onset substance abuse. Any recent gun purchases, and we'll talk about that one a little bit more in a minute. Any talking about wanting to die. Anybody that is isolating. So they were generally were good to be around other people. They were comfortable with being around the population. And now all of a sudden they don't want to be and they want to isolate. That is a telltale sign that somebody has a plan. Same with a recent gun purchase. That means that they have planned their death. And the next two items fall into that same plan. Selling or giving away items that mean a great deal to them. If you know somebody who is just handing out items that either were family heirlooms or something that was very important to that person, that is kind of a warning sign. That's a big warning sign that you need to be intervening, that you need to say something. And then if they are holding any large parties, so that often means that this is kind of a last hurrah. This is a last, they're saying their goodbyes in this party, especially if it's a larger party than normal. If you've got somebody that's used to having one or two people over and now they've invited everybody they know, and they have this whole plan of, how they want this party to look and how it's going to be, that is a big, big problem. And you need to be intervening at that party, very likely, if you can. But, definitely if you're invited to that party, pull them to the side and say, hey, look, here's this question. Are you going to do this? Do you have a plan? Would you, and then we offer how to help them. Then we offer, can I sit with you? Then we offer to bring in somebody that they trust that can sit with them and keep them safe until they feel like they are not going to commit suicide anymore. With those risk factors, I've been telling you through the whole podcast, and you hear everybody else tell you that you watching this, listening to this podcast, can prevent suicide. You say I can help. Now what do I do? The number one way that you can prevent a suicide as an individual person, not trained, just as yourself as an individual person listening to the podcast, if you see something, say something. If you see that somebody around you is acting abnormal, if you see that they are behaving in an abnormal way, if you even suspect, if your gut instinct is telling you that this person is going to commit suicide, say something. If you don't feel comfortable addressing them yourself, if you don't feel comfortable standing up and saying, do you have a plan? Are you going to kill yourself? Or do you have a plan to end your life? If you don't feel comfortable asking those questions, call 988. 988 is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. And they will get all the information from you to help this individual, and then they will keep you on the line. They will sit with you or with that person until help arrives. and they will direct you on what to do and how to help that person. If you feel comfortable asking those questions, there are ways that you can intervene while still making the phone call to 988. If you feel like it is emergent, if you feel like in the next 20 to 30 minutes, this person may go commit suicide, do not call 988. 988 is going to take a little bit to get you on the phone, and it's going to take you a little bit to walk through the process. If you feel like it is emergent and this person is going to commit suicide in the next 15 to 20 minutes, call 911. Let them know that you are with somebody who is suicidal, that they are safe, they are with you, and that you need help. And they will send somebody out there. They will have a deputy, and they will have a crisis worker that will respond, and they will do everything in their power to make sure that that person is safe. Again, 988 is the preferred number if you can hold out that long. 988 will get you better resources. It will get you trained, certified personnel. Not that law enforcement isn't trained in their jobs, but 988 is trained in crisis response and mental health crises. 988 is the preferred phone number for you to call. And any officers that are listening to this podcast will tell you the same thing, that 988 is definitely the preferred way to go. They do not use statements to this individual like, I understand how you're feeling, or I know exactly what you feel, or I've been there. Don't use those statements in that moment. Save that for another conversation down the road. While they're in that moment, while in a crisis, you need to listen completely to what they are saying. Because in most cases of a suicidal person, they already feel like their voice doesn't matter, and they already feel like they're not being heard. They feel like they're a burden. So if somebody is willing to talk with you, you listen to what they have to say. And if you want them to know that you're hearing what they have to say, use words like, I understand. Use words like, I appreciate what you're telling me. And repeat back to them in a summary of what they said so they know that you heard what they have said. The most common thing a survivor of suicide attempts tells us is that they felt alone and unheard in those final moments. They felt like their voice didn't matter in that moment. So be present. Let them know that you're going to stay with them until they receive whatever help that they need. If there's somebody that you know that they can trust, or if you're comfortable asking them if there's somebody that they can trust, call them. Don't ask them to call them because they're not going to make the call. You call them, get that phone number, and say that you are here with them and that they are not okay and that they are planning to commit suicide and you need them to be here with them until they're safe. Ask them if you can hold their medicines, their weapons, anything that they could harm themselves with. Make sure that you are doing everything in your power to protect them from themselves in that moment. Again, if you do not feel like that you can help them, if you feel like that is too much for you to handle, or if you're uncomfortable with taking that step, call 988 if you can wait that 20, 30 minutes, or if you cannot, please call 911. Either way, they're going to get the resources that they need in that moment. Another way you can help is by educating yourself. Educating yourself by joining public meetings. Educating yourself by finding local trainings in your area that are held by, in Morgan County, Mending Mines Village is going to be hosting some education trainings. You can look online if you would prefer to do virtual training. Live on Utah offers an online self-paced training program. You can go to liveonutah.org for more information on that training and get more information on how to help somebody in a suicidal crisis. You can also participate in local suicide prevention events. So this way you can raise your awareness, you can raise your understanding, and you can bring people with you so that you're raising awareness and supporting survivors. In those events, they are all about the survivors of these crises. At Mending Mines Village, we have created 3 programs to advocate for suicide prevention. First and foremost, we're putting together our peer support group. So in Morgan, Utah, we will be, by the end of February, hosting our first ever peer support group. And I know that we're working on a couple other counties as well. I know we're working on Washington County, Sevier County, and possibly even Duchesne County. If you would like information on those groups, please reach out. You can find us on Facebook at Mending Minds Village. You can find us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. You can always go to the website at mendingmindsvillage.org, and we'll put all the information up on there. You can give us a phone call. 801-259-3312 is the phone number to reach Mending Minds Village. And we can give you the information over the phone. We do have events in the community where we advocate for survivors and families of those that we have lost to suicide. And we are working with programs like the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, NAMI, Live on Utah, etc., to create an education program for rural Utah counties to educate parents, educators, and even students about suicide and ways that they can intervene and prevent it. We said it at the beginning. I said it at the beginning, but at Mending Minds Village, we believe that 0 is the only acceptable number of suicides, and we are all necessary. Every single individual American citizen is necessary in order to reach that number. Without each and every one of us, we're not going to get there. We've got to be better people. We got to be kinder to people. We need to be more understanding that human beings do have emotions, and we are going to reach out. We're going to reach the hearts of those who need us the most. Whether that is a mental health issue or it is a suicidal issue, we are going to be better people. We are going to reach out and help those who need us. Mending Minds Village, as you know, is an advocate for juvenile mental health treatment and resources, but we also have, as we've discussed, we do have the suicide prevention program as an advocate. If you are in need of services, please reach out to us. We're available on all social media platforms, as I said before. You can reach us at mendingmindsvillage.org or by phone at 801-259-3312. We will do everything in our power to change your situation and to advocate for you and your children and make sure that you get every ounce of care and assistance that you need. You guys, I know that was a heavy topic, and I appreciate you for sticking around and listening through the whole thing. If you have any questions, again, you can reach out to us. Let's talk about something a little lighter and a little more exciting, shall we? We're going to talk about our upcoming events. We have a big announcement on this podcast, so we're excited about it. Let's talk about March 1st, 2024, 7 p.m. You're going to join us. We hope you're going to join us for our virtual fundraiser event for Mending Minds Village. We're going to be auctioning off gift certificates. We've got a couple of really amazing partners in this effort. So Elite Island Resorts is one of our gift certificates. We're going to do 3 or 4 of them. These are all-inclusive resort stays at their out of the United States locations. We will have some Let's Roam gift certificates that we're auctioning off. Those are the fun, they mail you out this stuff and you go on a scavenger hunt gift certificates. We're also going to have our shirts, some bracelets, and hopefully some other items. If you're looking for that event, you can find it on the Facebook page at Mending Minds Village, or you can find it on the website as well. We'll have all that information up on there. Finally, we can announce on June 14th, 2024, if you are not in Morgan, Utah, you should be. We can finally announce that we are hosting our first annual Walk for Life community event walk at Morgan High School in Morgan, Utah. We want to thank Morgan High School for hosting that event. We're looking for sponsors and volunteers that are willing to come and help us with that event. We are going to be walking in support of those who we have lost to suicide. We are going to be advocating for those who are there that we may not know it, that are currently suicidal, or that are experiencing the loss that nobody should ever experience. If you are looking to participate in that event, we will be putting more information up on the Facebook page and the website, so be looking there. If you are interested in helping, please reach out to us. We need all the help we can get on this event. You guys, we're expecting roughly 2,500 people. A press release has been made on this event and should be reaching the news media desks at any point this week. So be looking out for that. We will share any news stories, any press events, anything like that on our social media pages and on our website. I will be going live every night all the way up to the event talking about it. So please join one of those lives, ask your questions. We're in the process of finalizing our details for the Morgan County Suicide Prevention Peer Support Group. So we'll be announcing the start of that as soon as we have those details in place. And then we will be putting flyers up in Morgan County and outside of the county to bring awareness to that event, advertise it, and make sure you know where to go if you need that service. Again, that'll be on Facebook pages, website, all that information. We're hoping that by the end of February, we have that one started. We are looking for some guests to be on our podcast, and we want you to come in and discuss suicide prevention, mental health issues, any advocacy. Share your advocacy story on here. If you are somebody that you would know would be a great guest, please email me at info@mendingmindsvillage.org and get me your request. And we're putting together quite a few requests right now, so we're currently putting together shows through April of this year. And we'll be expanding that as we get more shows put together. Thank you so much for your unwavering support for Mending Minds Village and the clients that we serve. We would not be here today without you. We would not be here today without the power of Mending Minds Village advocates. Next week, we have a special guest coming to you right here on Into the Light with Mending Minds Village. Terry Tucker is an amazing cancer survivor who uses his story to motivate, educate, and advocate. Come listen to his amazing words of positivity and how he inspires others to take care of their physical and mental health. We also have upcoming a children's author and mental health advocate, Andrea Sides. She is going to come in and talk about her book and also about her own advocacy and how she supports juvenile mental health. Then we have a 3-part series coming up on child abuse in the family courts. If you would like to be a guest on that, please reach out to me and get me either your information or a date that you can be a guest on the show. We have other shows coming. We're putting more together as we go, so we're excited for you guys to hear those episodes and to share them out with your friends and family. So please stay tuned. Into the Life with Mending Minds Village is going to bring you some amazing shows. Please share our shows. Share it out with your friends, family members, colleagues, neighbors, anybody you can think of that could benefit from hearing any of our topics. We appreciate all of your support and advocacy, and we look forward to bringing you more programs and awareness to all of these mental health issues. If you'd like to hear any specific topics discussed on the show, please send them over to me, info@mendingmindsvillage.org, and I'll make sure that we get it on the calendar. We'll let you know what date it's going to air, and as soon as we get to your episode, we'll drop it, and we'll get you a link to it so you can hear that episode. Have a wonderful week, everybody. We'll see you back here next Friday for another great episode of Into the Light with Mending Minds Village. Bye for now.